Welcome to another leadership lessons, and I'm excited about this one. I'm excited about all of them. But Gary, you were my state president when I was national president with the Show Me State, the Missouri Jaycees, and you absolutely showed America leadership and how to do it the JC way. And then Sydney, you came along and you were national president as well. So the first husband and wife, and probably going to be the only husband and wife couple
Oh
that is
boy.
ever president of the United States Jaycees. That's quite an honor. And going, Sydney, you were a Texas JC,
Oh
but
what?
I want to talk a little bit about, and we can get into a little bit about what you did, but I want to talk to both of you. You know, you both rose to the ranks of the junior chamber to serve as United States presidents. What personal qualities do you think most contributed to that achievement? And Sydney, I'm going to go with you first.
I think the quality is probably, looking back on it, was probably just determination, tenacious, um, maybe even part of not even being aware of what all you were doing, to be honest. I wish, when you were coming up through the organization, you're just doing what you love. Well,
Yeah.
that's what I was doing. I loved it. I loved the JCs from the moment I walked in the door. But I would say that probably the two things that stand out to me is taking the initiative, just being, just so many would back then. I mean, they would kind of stand back and somebody had to take the lead. And whether it was running a project or just rounding everybody up to go do a project, whatever it was. And I've never been shy, not about that kind of thing anyway. And I think more than anything, it just showed everyone that I cared.
Right.
I mean, they knew. I mean, really, from the time I started, I loved the organization. And I think that showed. I
Yeah.
think people saw that in me.
Gary, what do you think? What were some of your personal qualities that you
Well,
think led to
it's
your achievement?
and Bill, I come from a agrarian background. My parents were both raised on dirt floors, had nothing, and raised seven kids and built we were raised on a farm, and that work ethic, the drive, you know, making starting early and finishing late or whenever the work's done. And so, that it's just drive and determination. I
Yep.
mean, ours never got too long. As Missouri's a big state and traveling all over, as state membership vice president, we did 29 new chapter affiliations. And I put 63,000 miles on my car after work. And the next year as state president, we did 30 and 30 new chapter affiliations. I tried to work on every one or be involved with the most of them, and 66,000 miles after work. So it's that's the kind of commitment, and the folks that I looked up to in JC's. I'd heard the stories and knew what it takes, and it fit me on what we wanted to achieve as a team. I knew it. You had to lead by example, and I expected it out of the rest of my team. And my CEO at the bank was always tells me that the bar has been raised, and and if you're leading by example, uh, people know that they got to pick it up, and that was our team's success
Yeah.
and the reason we got there.
Gary, JC's is a leadership training organization, always has been. What specific lessons did you learn in JC's that aided in your banking career, and then Sydney later on in your insurance career?
Well, I'll start off, Bill, and for me, I loved. I'm a recruiter. I love to sell JCs, and what it did for me, in my career, I had no fear on going on to somebody's business, whether that be at their boardroom or at their kitchen table, and selling them on our lending institution. Same way with JCs. And you know there was a time there, probably 5 6 years in a row, that I recruited personally over 300 people a year.
Uh-huh.
And that's not because I only talked to 300 people. I talked to thousands of people. But the worst thing they could say to me was no. And I'd always be trying to turn around to get to the yes. And, you know, in recruiting, when I'd work on new chapter extensions, I'd take new members with me and I just tell them to nod and grin and I'll
Teach
sell.
them.
A nodder and a grinner. That's all you need, two people. And then after 5 or 6 contacts, I'd say, well, here's Bill Russell with me. He's going to tell you about the Jaycees. And, you know, and you'd see how much they'd learned.
Throw them in the water.
And and it was the same way at work. You know, I had no fear going anywhere to any place to talk to someone about
Sure.
our lending institution, and doing it all the time as a volunteer, it made it work. And then, you know, my reputation was, I was Jerry Maguire. I could go into that living room or that kitchen table and have people that had a relationship for 2 generations and 30 years and get them to sign and go with us. So, and that's, go ahead, Sydney.
Well, what I was going to say, what JC's taught me that, has been a big plus in my professional and my personal life is I learned strong time management skills.
Yeah.
And that, that is something that I keep with that. I mean, Gary and I both are, we're both very strong time managers, and we're both goal setters. And I learned that in JC's. I mean, they're the ones that taught me that dangdo CPG, and setting the goals and trying to establish them or getting there. And then if you didn't, why didn't you? And I mean, that was valuable to me, and it served me well throughout my career. No
Sydney,
question.
Leading volunteers is challenging in any organization. How did you motivate people who aren't paid? They're mission driven. How did you do that in Texas?
You have to believe in it. I mean, first and foremost, you have to believe in it. I attended a management seminar many years. It was a conference. We were there for like 3 days. It was for my work. And I'll never forget this guy saying, you can only motivate people on a short-term basis. You can't do it long term. In order for them to be motivated, you have to create an environment in which they motivate themselves. That was JC's. You created the environment, and it was due to your passion and your love and your belief in that creed. And I look up here because even 25 years after I served, that creed is still on my wall.
Yeah.
And I believed in every line of that creed. And when you're enthusiastic about something like that and you have that kind of passion, it creates the same thing in other people. I mean, it just does. And when I was national president, our motto was, it was a quote by Margaret Mead: never doubt that a small group of committed people can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has.
Yeah.
And it's true. It just takes a few to, create the spark, and you take off with it.
Gary, I'm looking at your wall. You got your frost from 1993.
That's right.
Your leadership of Missouri and the United States Jaycees was 25, 30 years ago. What does effective leadership look like today for a membership-driven organization compared to when you led?
And I'll answer that, but first of all, I want to tie into what Sydney said and get to that. But because what I learned is not everybody's the same, and you're going to I use different methods. Not everybody's going to react to the same stimulus. Jim Sievert always said in Hours of Power that a pat on the back and a slap on the rear, is not very big distance between the two, but you got to be precise and understand what people's needs are and what stimulus they're going to need to help them get to the next level. And I think that's very important in leadership. I think it's the same today because everybody is different. Now, in today's environment, Bill, you got different toys to use, Snapchat and what's, all the different apps you have. And, you think about when we tried to go out and do JCs, you just think about all the time and how much more efficient you are with the tools you have today. It's amazing. I mean, when I was state president, just got a car phone, you know, and it wasn't very cheap then. And I had a lot of explaining to do on why my car phone bill was so much, but I made that up to him after I got back from my year as president because I was just a lot better and produced a lot more income for the company. So, but anyway, in today's, I'd still say a lot of people are still people. They still have needs. You need to appeal to those, and you need to build the bridge on what they're going to get out of it personally. And you need to, and I had a JC, Gordon Elliott, who was involved and on the national board in the 70s. He said something to me. He says, Gary, he said, JCs are like a bank. And he did my local chapter orientation. And he said, first you got to make a deposit in there to get a return. But it's the only organization you'll ever be in where you can't put in as much as you get back. And he says, that's what you're going to find. And I've used that trying to communicate to volunteers. And it's so true. It's been true in my life, and it continues to give back and continues to with the people I know that are in my life that are special to me. And so it's couldn't be truer than it is today. And I think it applies to today's volunteers as well.
All three of us been national presidents, and I know I went to 47 states, and some of those 3 or 4 times, like yours, I literally have no record of what cities or towns I was in. The photos, if somebody took photos and mailed them to me, that's the only way I sometimes know what towns. We didn't have mobile phones that had the capability of taking pictures on the spot. We didn't have social media. I kind of wonder how our years would have been different if we would have had social media or mobile phones.
Well, now you're going to have AI, which actually could make up stuff, which I can only imagine. I remember that Bill Russell ended up in our swimming pool at our summer board meeting in Springfield. I do remember that.
Yeah, I do remember that too.
I wasn't up for that, but I was already in bed sleeping. But for some reason,
I'm sure
you ended up there. I know one program manager got fired for doing it. I didn't.
Gary, we were talking before we came on here. You got a farm, 3,600 acres. I'm just amazed by that. But how does leading one of the largest livestock and banking operations in Missouri benefit from the leadership skills that you maybe harnessed in Jaycees?
Well, and Bill, it's I didn't do it all myself. That's the first thing. We have a family here that all help and did a lot of sacrifice when I was traveling the world doing Jaycees. But they saw the benefit in what it meant, but it just made me manage my time better and be effective. But still yet today we start at daylight and at 9:30 shut off the devices and start thinking about sleep and what we're doing tomorrow. And it's not 5 days a week, it's 7. So and a lot of my helpers that help on the farm, I try to get them some time off in the weekend to spend with their family. So I'm the $5 an hour help on the weekends, Bill.
Yeah.
So anyway, and that's what work ethic. I mean, that's been instilled in me. Nothing's going to be given to you. You got to earn everything you get. And it's a challenging. Agriculture has always been a challenging enterprise, and I started in 86 there, and the first 3 customers I saw were people that I was informed that I had to tell that we were going to sell them out. So, there's some, some life lessons. I've seen all different parts of it. And if you're in agriculture, if you're in good times, bad's coming. And if you're in bad times, you just got to hold on for the next uptick. And we've been fortunate. We made a lot of good decisions, but we've made some not so good, but we've always found a way to work our ways from it, and now we're in a pretty good spot. So we're we count our blessings every day.
Sydney, I'd ask this question of Gary, but he'd say I never made one. But what's a leadership mistake you maybe made early in your career that became a valuable learning lesson and experience for you?
Actually, we talked about that before. I mean, Gary and I did about what mistakes did you make, and you're exactly right. He said he never made any. So I
I
was
would
trying to
imagine.
learn from him, and he said, "Well, I didn't ever make any."
I'm not going to fess up to it anyway.
But I would say one of the ones I learned early on was trying to micromanage. And you know, to be successful and to build a team, you can't do that. You've got to involve everyone. But I would say that was a very valuable lesson to me early
Mhm.
on. And that's the one that sticks with me the most. And then you have to be an effective communicator. And that was something that I learned to do well. And then I attribute that to Jaycees. I do. That was something that really I improved upon because of the organization.
Yeah. Sydney, how do you balance civic leadership with the demanding professional and family responsibilities you might have?
You can't do it if you don't have support.
Yeah.
There's no way. Danny, my ex-husband, was an awesome supporter all through my JC career. And he was a great JC. He was like Gary talking about those great recruiters. He was a
Mhm.
great recruiter as well. But you also have to have the right job for it.
Yep.
I from the time I was chapter president to when I was state president was 7 years.
Mhm.
And we used to laugh and say, well, I had to run for state president because I was out of VP slots. But the reality of it was I didn't have the job for it. I did not have a boss or an employer that would support it. And when I changed jobs in 96, I was then able to run in 97 because I had a civic minded employer. And you can't do it without that. I just don't see how anyone runs without the support of their boss or their employer and their family.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do it.
Gary, what advice would you have for any young professional who says, I don't have the time for community service?
Well, I would tell them that you do have time, and that that's why being involved in JCs will help you manage your time better, and you be more efficient, and everyone needs to work on themselves, because you're the most important asset. Your personal skills are the most important asset that you have, and any time that you can do that, plus you're going to improve the community while you're improving yourself, and that's going to pay big dividends for you. That was true in my day. And because my boss told me in my first job, when I was placed in Texarkana, Arkansas, that the young movers and shakers in Texarkana joined the JCs. And so he had a members, one of our customers' sons, take me to my first meeting. I joined there and never looked back. So I mean, that still rings true today. Maybe not as broadly as it was back in 1986, but I think it can be in play. There's communities that still have strong JC chapters, and it can still happen.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd love to take another run into JCs today. I'm sure I could double that damn thing up in about 6 months.
And I wanted to go there next because I was just speaking this morning to someone at a Chamber of Commerce event. We were talking about the Lions Club, and there used to be a Lions Club in each of the towns that we represent here, and now it's one. And Rotary is the same thing. Our Rotary membership has fallen off dramatically over the years. We've seen it, whether it's Kiwanis, Optimus, Moose, JCs, Elks, all the membership organizations are declining and they're struggling with engagement. So, Gary, you just said you'd love to take another run at what would you do differently today to attract young leaders?
Well, I still think it works, the personal contact and selling the entire package, and just changing to what today's needs are, and trying to package the whole product using the different toys that we have today but you got to have something that can be an app on a phone that people can look at and engage that way. It's going to all companies have to do that. It's got to be an app on a phone that's got to be to do, but you can be so efficient and do that and be able to tie in to all kinds of training materials internationally, globally, and you talking about the Lions and the Rotary makes me think about our old friend David Chua from the Philippines, who said, he always told me, he says, Gary, we give all of our regular members to the Lions and our good ones to Rotary. We feed them to the Lions.
Sydney, and this is true too. What's the biggest challenges facing community and civic organizations in 2025? And how do you think leaders can address it?
I think Gary was just talking about it. I think if we're not going to change if we don't get our arms around social media and how to communicate. Gary and I have, we don't, as you know, we don't have children, but we have a nephew we're really close to. And a couple of months ago, he was really struggling to get his arms around something that was in the news. And Gary and I didn't understand why he didn't get it. And I said to him, and he's 21, I said, where do you get your news? Well, TikTok. But I think that's a perfect example of someone my age. I can't even relate to that. I can't relate to Snapchat, which I've been told is old news now. And I can't relate to getting my news off of TikTok. But we have to figure out how to get our arms around that to grow an organization and not just Jaycees. I look at the Lions Club in our community. It's older people. It's not young people. It's older people. And that's typical of any organization, nonprofit around here, other than FFA. And FFA in this area is huge. And why?
And it's been huge. It's been huge for 20 years now. I mean, 25. I didn't join FFA, and I was born and raised on the farm, but it wasn't big in our community. It sure is now. They'll have 300. 75% of the students in our schools, in our high school system, are members probably.
And so how do we get our arms around that to take them into the Jaycees? Because they learn parliamentary procedure, they compete on a state and national level, they compete to be president and first VP and second VP, and it is an honor and a privilege. So how do we use that as an organization to take it into the Jaycees?
Yeah.
And with our creed and the words that are in it and the beliefs, our core beliefs as an organization all these years, you see what's happened at Turning Point USA and how to burrow into that and see what they're doing and learn about how and we know that, but they were having success before the assassination. But anyway, I think there can be some lessons learned there too.
Gary, you mentioned David Chuan-Su. We both served Junior Chamber International as international officers. I think you were general legal counsel as well. I know you were an area VP. I didn't do that, but I was treasurer. When you saw the different cultures involved in Junior Chamber, what global lessons should American nonprofits learn from maybe the Asians and the Europeans, which are still growing as organizations?
They are. Now, I think they all had some challenges with COVID, probably more than we had in the U.S., and that changed things a little. But I tell you, and I harken back, Bill, to when I served. I was chaired the Asian Pacific Conference in 1998 in Macau, which had just turned over from Portuguese to the PRC, to the Chinese government, and right before Hong Kong changed over. So I've traveled there and probably traveled to Asia 48 times since the Hong Kong World Congress, where Robbie was chaired that one. So they liked the US Junior Chamber model of the 70s and 80s. And it was more about, there was we recruited it, we allowed everyone to join. And maybe that guy that filled my car up with gas, if he hung around with us, maybe he could own that filling station someday and own a business and start his own. That was our model. Their model is not that. I mean, you've got to come through be younger management in a corporation, or come from a family with money and established prestige if you were going to be in the junior chamber. I mean, it meant something to be there. It was all about quality, and they didn't have the big memberships. But they sure had the quality. And when I was assigned in Asia, the president of Philippine Jaycees, their national president's dad was president of the country, and now he's a senator in the Philippines. JV Ercito. Joe Estrada was, we went to the presidential palace when I made my official visit there. So, I mean, that's the kind of people. I mean, and then later in my career, Bill, when I was I was Charlie, your hack, my hack, his deputy, and took that over in 08 and stayed there for 10 years. And the chairman of that group was Taro Aso, who was a former prime minister of the country of Japan and ran the LDP for, maybe still does. And I know when Trump was running for president, he went to Trump Tower to meet with Trump 60 days before the election. Yeah. And it's a man that well and that I got to serve with, and probably one of the biggest thrills of my life was working with him and the things you learn. But they're all great students of the United States, look at us for leadership and want to emulate what we have done with our organization. So
Kelly Wills, a close friend of yours, passed now. He was a past national president. What would you say are some leadership traits of Kelly that you admire the most?
Well, Kelly and I were state presidents together for you, and I brought him back to run for national vice president and asked that as a favor of Charlie helped make that happen. And Kelly was, he and I were best friends. But it was Kelly, the reason I'm married to Sydney, there's two people that kind of put that together. One of them was Kelly and the other was Eric Seidel, because they both worked with Sydney at one of Eric and Jeff Dixon's company, E-Auto Claims. So anyway, but Kelly was, he was raised the same way I was. He just outworked you, and he could motivate volunteers. He would roll up his sleeves and get in there and work with them. And, and Kelly believed in people, and he wouldn't give up on, and he tried to put people in a position where they would succeed. And, that's important in leadership. If you put people in a position to fail, that's you can't do that, and you got to guard from that. That's very important.
When I think of Kelly, I think of a likable competitor. He was a competitor. He competed hard, but you like the guy. You just like the guy.
Yeah, I think back to Gary Pearson. He was a local president in Millard, Nebraska, and at Gals, he got a postcard from Gary Pearson because he had like 50 some due, and he was only +5, and he'd done 2 in chapters to make it. And he got a postcard from Pearson that said +5 sucks. So next month he grew by like 60.
Well, you're both competitors. Do you compete at home too, or pretty much go in a team, go together as a team?
Well, I'll let Gary take that one.
Now we're a team, and after COVID, Sydney spent a lot of time on the road going to St. Louis and all that. And she continues to do community service. She was volunteer of the year of our community a couple of years ago.
Oh, that's great.
Still does lot of stuff at the nursing home, does a lot of, started a group called Serve Eldon that's and teaches Women's on Wednesday up at Jeff City, which is faith-based, and does a lot with the Bible studies and leads on that. So she does a lot of the community development now and leads on that. And she's got me making sure the bills are paid. So
Sydney, couple, 3 or 4 years ago, whenever it was, all of us were down at Myrtle Beach and Foundation met. I'll never forget, Robbie Dawkins and I were walking through the host hotel, some new JCs, and Robbie stopped him. And I don't remember, it was a northern state, Wisconsin, Minnesota, something like that. And he said, you know who we are? They were like, nope. And I think it humbled Robbie a little bit more because I knew damn well they didn't know who I was. But looking back on it, what to both of you, what do you want your JC legacy to be? When people look back at Sydney, somebody looks back at Gary, what do you want that legacy to be? What will they remember you for?
Well, I think Gary and I've talked about this too. I think a lot of people will remember that I was the first woman president. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Because I was the 81st, and that's a long time to go without a female at the helm. But at the time, I didn't put a lot of thought into that. I just went and did the job. I went to be president of an organization that I loved. And so I would hope that my legacy, that people remember how much we did love it. It was all about, for me, we called it the power of one, because one person can indeed change the world. Look at Charlie Kirk. I mean, what better example do we have right now, 4 weeks after his assassination, that what he started in his garage at 19. And so I think it can still happen again. And I think JCs they can do it again. But you have to believe in it. And I believe either I embody that creed or it embodies me. I still believe in every single line of that creed.
Yeah.
And so I would hope that people just remember, what they remember about me is how much I believed in this organization and how much I love this organization.
And certainly, Gary, yours is your big old jumbo Yankee. I never will forget walking through some of the Asian meetings, and he was the big jumbo Yankee. Or Charlie's boy. I was Charlie's boy.
That's right. So was I. But anyway, Kelly always talked about how they treated me like I was John Wayne. But when you travel, when you travel overseas and you're when you're a conference chairman, and then you go on to be a part of the advisor team, I traveled over there. I never carried a bag. They had people, and the hospitality that I was shown by all the JCs and the seniors over there and the senators. I mean, if they knew it was a big commitment to be away and to spend all that time away, and they treated us like gold. So, and I know you were treated well too, Bill, and that's, and I try to do that today with the JCs and with other people serving on the foundation board and stuff like that, making sure that we provide good hospitality and take good care of them. But no, it's the experience, the travel. I don't like to travel much now, but I like I said, I've done a lot of it over the last, and after I've quit holding office and worked on the SBC with Robbie and the strategic planning committee, then I started traveling with Charlie and working on providing opportunities for the JCs to serve internationally and bringing us to World Congress to Las Vegas and to Quebec and working, helped Bruce Rector become president, Don Hetzel to be president, Scott Greenlee to be president, providing those opportunities for those people. And that meant a lot to me too. So probably as much as serving as president, providing opportunities for the others to pass me and not just doing it because, some old hacks just don't give me names, give me states. Didn't want to make it personal. Well, we go back to Bill putting people in positions to where they succeed. Yeah. I wanted to find the right, working with Benny or Edson or anyone at the Secretary General's level to make sure that these people that are getting elected are signed places where they can be effective, where they could derive benefit from it. I really tried to work on doing that part of it. And when I was Charlie's deputy, he always encouraged input and doing all that. Also had to remind him that, when we had 60,000 members, when I was being advisor, it was a lot easier, I'm sure, to do that job when you had 200,000 members, but the respect you have that the US Jaycees and our organization has from the rest of the world is still great. Kind of like it is with President Trump's leadership now. The US has to lead, and when they don't, it's a global problem. So
last question of both of you. If a young 21, 22-year-old person, male or female, walked up and asked why they should join Jaycees or any organization, whether it was Kiwanis or Rotary, any service organization whatsoever, how would you answer that, Gary?
Because Sydney says so. No.
I don't know about that.
I don't. It goes back to how I would frame it was if you want to give back to your community and improve yourself, there's no better vehicle to do that on a global basis and be part of an international network. I really think you need to. We spent a lot of money building Junior Chamber International, as the US Jaycees have. So that needs to be part of the sale and involve them in becoming a global citizen and the network piece. And we're still a global network, and we need to tie into that as well, because we produce a lot of ag products. We're going to be producing a lot more stuff here, but we're going to need to sell it to somebody as well. Yep. And I think the commerce part of that is important, Bill, and that needs to be in our message and our messaging.
Sydney, what would you tell that young person? Why should they get involved in their community?
And they say, oh, why should I join? Well, why not? Why wouldn't you try it? I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't try it, because you have the opportunity in Jaycees to meet other people. They're, similar in age, anywhere 21 to 40. So you're hanging around with people that are around your age or in your age group. You have an opportunity to do great things in your community. And I learned so much in Jaycees. That's where a lot of personal development came from. It might be how to do a budget. It might be how to buy life insurance. One of the most best classes I ever did in Jaycees that I attended was on self-defense. And it still stays with me to this day. And it was a fellow Jaycee that was a police officer teaching a bunch of women of how to defend yourself in a parking lot. And he
really needs it now, Bill.
But he made a believer out of us. You had such great opportunities to be around people your age.
Yeah. Well, Gary, I want to thank both of you for your time. Sydney, I didn't really get a chance in my heyday of being a state and national president, of working with you. But certainly I did with Gary, and Gary was somebody who worked really, really hard. He pushed the other presidents. Gary, I got to tell you, we talked about challenges, in January of 1993, we grew for the first time in actually years. We grew, and I thought we had turned that corner. I was so excited. I said, okay, January, we're going to do it in February, March, April. It didn't happen the way I thought it could. But, and I was so used to it every facet of my life, just like you guys, local president, district director, state president, always being at growth. And then all of a sudden you come up against a roadblock where it just isn't clicking the way that you hoped. But I want to thank you both for sharing your time tonight. I want to thank you both for the impact that you made on the junior chamber through your involvement in Texas and through Missouri. And Gary, there's no question if Missouri hadn't have been there for Bill Russell, I would not have been national president. So thank you and the Missouri Jaycees.
Yep. Well, it's our pleasure, and Bill, you've been great for us. Our people loved you, and you had such a good trip in August, and that helped set the stage for a great finish. And we brought Bryn Daniel in February, and that was one of the most powerful hours that I ever saw in Jaycees. What she did to our group. We had a guy that was visiting from a neighboring town that they brought along, and went home and had around 40. He had 40 recruits that by the time he got home at 2:00, by 10 that night, they called me and they said they had 40 checks. We brought that a new chapter in extension at 54. So Republic Jaycees. So it can happen.
She was chairman of my institute, and again, she is also the reason that I got where I was going to go. So I owe a lot to Bryn Daniels as well. So
yeah, our people in Missouri had never seen a woman that strong from the podium, and man, she was
strong at the podium, and she's strong behind the closed doors too. She can negotiate.
Yeah, she's good. She's a good one. Love her for sure.
You two have a great one. Hope I see you soon.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.